Pain is a portal, not a punishment. That simple truth can transform how you walk through the hardest seasons of your life. See, most people think pain is evidence that something is wrong with them. They believe it's a sign they failed, been forgotten, or somehow fallen out of favor with God or the universe. But that belief is a lie. Pain is not meant to disqualify you. It's designed to develop you. It's not an end. It's an entry point into the next version of who you're becoming. Pain stretches you, sharpens you, wakes you up. It peels away who you were so you can step into who you really are. When you're in pain, you're in a moment of decision. You can either run from it, numb it, complain about it, or you can lean in and ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? Where is it trying to take me? Because if you only see pain as punishment, you'll resist it. But if you understand it's a portal, you'll endure it with purpose. Diamonds are not formed in comfort. They're formed in pressure. Gold is not refined in cool water. It's purified in fire. And you too are being refined by what you're going through. Let me give you an example. Imagine a young woman training to be a concert pianist. She practices for hours every day. Her fingers ache, her back hurts. She cries in frustration when she can't get a passage right. One day she slams the lid of the piano and says, "Why does it have to be this hard? Why does it hurt so much?" Her teacher walks in and says, "Because every time it hurts, you're growing. Your pain is not punishing. It's preparing you for the performance." The same applies to your life. That heartbreak you went through, that betrayal, that financial setback, it didn't come to ruin you. It came to raise you if you let it. The pain broke your illusions. It tore off your masks. It forced you to confront the truth about who you are and what you truly need. That's not punishment. That's progress. Look at any powerful person you admire, whether in business, faith, leadership, or art, and you'll find someone who's been through something. Their influence didn't come from how smooth their life was. It came from what they survived, what they learned in the fire, and how they emerged stronger because of it. So the next time life hits you and you feel like the weight is too much to carry, remember this. Pain is the price of elevation. Not because you deserve to suffer, but because greatness is always born in struggle. The pain is not the end of your story. It's the doorframe to a new beginning. Walk through it with your head high. Don't ask, why me? Declare, through this I rise. You're not broken, you're being built. That may be hard to believe when life feels like it's falling apart. When dreams shatter, when relationships crumble, when failure stares you down like a cold wall, it's easy to think something is wrong with you. But here's the truth. Just because it feels like you're breaking doesn't mean you're broken. In fact, it means you're under construction. Building anything valuable requires tearing down the old, stripping away the weak, and reinforcing the strong. No architect looks at an empty lot and panics. No builder stands in the middle of rubble and calls it a failure. They see what others don't, a future, a design, a masterpiece in progress. The same is true for your life. What you see as brokenness might actually be the foundation being laid for your next level. But the world loves to talk about breakthroughs, success, and strength, but rarely do we celebrate the breaking process that builds all of those things. You don't build resilience without resistance. You don't develop strength without struggle. And you don't discover your purpose without going through pressure. The breaking moments, those seasons when nothing makes sense, are not evidence that you've lost your value. They're proof that you're being shaped, carved, and formed into something greater than you were before. Think about how a sword is made. First, a rough, shapeless piece of metal is placed into a furnace. It's heated until it glows, until it's pliable, until everything in it that doesn't belong can be removed. Then it's beaten again and again by a blacksmith, not to destroy it, but to strengthen it. Every strike gives it form. Every burn gives it character. And only after the fire and the blows is it sharpened into a weapon of purpose. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a man who loses his job after 10 years. He's devastated. He feels worthless, like everything he's built is gone. He spends months trying to get back what he lost, but nothing works. So out of desperation, he starts a small side business doing what he's always loved, woodworking. Over time, it grows. People start to notice. Years later, that business becomes a national brand. Looking back, he realizes losing that job didn't break him. It built him. It forced him out of a cage and into his calling. The same principle applies to you. Just because your path looks different now doesn't mean you're off course. Maybe the relationship didn't last. Maybe the business failed. Maybe the vision changed. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means the tools that brought you this far can't take you further. And life is rebuilding you with stronger materials. So when life tears away what you thought you couldn't live without, don't collapse under the weight of the moment. Step back, breathe, and remember, you are not being destroyed. You are being designed. You're not broken. You're being built. Responsibility is the doorway to power. It's the moment your life begins to change, not when circumstances shift, not when other people treat you better, but when you decide to take full ownership of your choices, your actions, and your future. It's easy to blame. It's easy to point fingers at your parents, your boss, your pain. But blame is a cage. It gives your power away. Responsibility is the key that unlocks the door. Most people think responsibility is about fault. It's not. Responsibility is not about taking the blame for everything that happens to you. It's about owning your response to it. You may not have chosen the trauma. You didn't pick the rejection, the betrayal, or the failure. But you get to choose what you do with it. In the moment you realize that is the moment you reclaim your power. Taking responsibility doesn't mean life will suddenly get easier. It means you get stronger. It means you stop waiting for someone to save you, validate you, or fix it for you. You stop saying, I can't because of them, and start saying, I will in spite of them. When you take responsibility, you move from being a victim of circumstance to the author of your own story. Think about how world-class athletes train. When they lose a game, they don't sit in the locker room blaming the weather, the crowd, or the ref. They watch the tape. They break it down. They say, what did I do? What can I do better? Why? Because they know this truth. If you don't own the loss, you can't own the win. You can't change what you won't claim. Let me give you a quick example. A young man grows up in a rough neighborhood. His father is absent. His mother works 3 jobs just to put food on the table. By the time he's 17, he's angry, bitter, and failing in school. One day, a teacher pulls him aside and says, you can spend your life blaming your father, or you can start becoming the man you never had. That one sentence hits him hard. For the first time, he realizes he's been living his story like a passenger instead of a driver. He decides to change. He takes responsibility, not for what happened to him, but for where he's going. He studies, he works, he grows. Years later, he becomes the mentor he never had, helping kids just like him rewrite their stories too. That's the power of responsibility. It didn't come from comfort. It came from a choice. When you take full ownership of your life, you step into power, real power. Not the kind that controls others, but the kind that controls you. Your discipline, your direction, your destiny. Responsibility isn't a burden, it's a blessing. Because once you take it, no one can stop you. You become unstoppable, not because life is perfect, but because you've chosen to rise above it. Speak life, even when you see death. That may sound like blind optimism to some, but it's actually a powerful spiritual and psychological principle. Your words are not just sounds, they are seeds. Every time you speak, you're planting something into your mind, your future, and even the atmosphere around you. When life falls apart, when the pressure is unbearable, and when everything looks dead, your words are either going to pull you forward or chain you to defeat. Most people speak what they see. If the situation looks bad, they talk about how bad it is. If they feel broken, they say, I can't do this. If they're tired, they say, I'm done. But here's the shift. Powerful people don't just speak what is, they speak what can be. They don't use words to describe the death. They use words to declare the comeback. This isn't denial, it's direction. It's about using your voice to guide your life, not just report on your pain. Your words are creative tools. What you say repeatedly begins to shape what you believe, and what you believe shapes how you act. If you keep saying, I'm stuck, you'll never look for a way out. If you keep saying, and nothing ever works for me, you'll subconsciously sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. But if you start speaking life, saying things like, I'm built for this, or this is temporary, or there's purpose in this pain, you give yourself permission to rise. Let me give you an example. There was a man who lost his business, his savings, and even his home during an economic collapse. Everything looked dead. People around him told him to give up, declare bankruptcy, and just accept that it was over. But every day, he got up and spoke differently. He stood in front of the mirror and said, this will not be the end of me. I may have lost money, but I haven't lost my mind. but I haven't lost my mind. I haven't lost my faith. And I haven't lost my ability to rebuild. He said it when he didn't feel it. He said it when nothing changed. He spoke life when all he saw was death. And over time, those words turned into energy. That energy turned into action. That action turned into a new business and a new season. The power wasn't in pretending everything was okay. The power was in choosing to declare a new outcome in the face of disaster. Your life will eventually rise to the level of your word. So when you feel buried, speak like someone planting a seed, not burying a casket. Speak healing when you feel broken. Speak peace when you feel chaos. Speak purpose when you feel lost. You don't need perfect conditions to speak life. You just need a decision. A choice to say, this isn't where it ends. Something greater is on the other side of this. When you can speak life in the face of death, that's when resurrection begins. That's when things shift, not just around you, but within you. God allows breaking to prepare you for blessing. That's not always easy to accept, especially when you're in the middle of that breaking. It feels like abandonment. It feels like failure. But in reality, it's divine preparation. God doesn't break you to harm you. He breaks you to position you. The breaking is not punishment. It's pruning. It's the process he uses to strip away what can't go with you to the next level. When God has something big in store for your life, he doesn't build it on comfort. He builds it on character. And character is shaped in the breaking. It's in those moments when the things you depended on are taken away, when the job is lost, the relationship ends, the opportunity falls through, that God does his deepest work. He removes your dependency on people, on money, on status, and teaches you to rely on him. He breaks your pride, your ego, your impatience, so that the blessing won't destroy you when it arrives. There's a divine pattern in Scripture. Every person God used powerfully, he broke deeply. Moses was broken in the desert for 40 years before he led a nation. Joseph was betrayed, sold, imprisoned before he became second in command over Egypt. David was anointed king but spent years running for his life. Even Jesus was broken on the cross before resurrection came. In each case, the breaking came first, and through that breaking, God prepared the vessel for the blessing. Imagine someone who's training for the military's elite special forces. They go through the most intense physical and mental breaking imaginable. Days without sleep, grueling drills. Emotional pressure. Why? Because they're not being punished, they're being prepared. The process is meant to strip away weakness, fear, and ego, so that when it's time to lead under fire, they're ready. The same is true spiritually. God allows you to be broken not to crush you, but to forge something in you that can carry the blessing without cracking under it. Let me give you a simple example. A woman dreams of starting her own nonprofit to help abused children. But before she ever launches it, her own world falls apart. She goes through a painful divorce. She loses friends, her finances take a hit, and just when she feels like God has forgotten her, she starts to see something change. She finds strength she didn't know she had. Compassion grows in her. Vision becomes clear. And when she finally starts the nonprofit, she's not just a woman with a good idea. She's a woman with fire, with faith, and with the scars to lead others to healing. The breaking didn't block the blessing, it built the blessing. So if you're being broken right now, don't curse the process. Trust the purpose. You're not being destroyed, you're being developed. What feels like loss is often just God clearing space for something greater. Hold on. Stay faithful. Because the blessing that's coming won't just change your life. It will require every bit of strength the breaking is producing in you. Breakthrough only comes after the breaking. That's not just a motivational phrase. It's a spiritual law, a life principle, and a deep truth that applies to every area of growth. We all want breakthrough, success, healing, clarity, purpose, freedom. But what many don't realize is that breakthrough doesn't show up in comfort. It comes after discomfort, disappointment, and deep internal breaking. The breaking is not something to avoid. It's the pathway to everything you've been praying for. Before anything breaks through the surface, something has to be cracked open. Think about a seed. It has to be buried in dirt, in darkness, with no applause, no spotlight. Then it has to break open before anything grows. That breaking isn't pretty. It's messy. It's painful, but it's necessary. Without the breaking, there's no growing. And without the growing, there's no breakthrough. In our lives, we often mistake the breaking for failure. We think the setback means